Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 59 of the All in Football Fantasy Premier League show podcast. I'm your host, the self-proclaimed FPL guru, Alex Rex. And joining me today, alongside my regular Barry Stokes, is Callum Burnett, who is joining us from a train. So we have to bear with him a little bit in terms of his signal, potentially, as he's making his way down to Leeds today. Baz, how are you doing?
Good, thank you. Apart from getting ribbed by our co-host here, Callum, saying that I'm throwing the league away. So I got a bit of stick from that. But yeah, doing all right, to be honest.
It's you're still getting a nosebleed up there in second. Another green arrow this week for you up the league, overtaking Sunday. That bench boost chip really did pay off. I mean, there's over 1 million managers used a bench boost this week, wasn't there? So it's It was a week that seems to have paid off in terms of bench boost. Callum, how are you getting on?
Yeah, not doing too bad. Yeah, again, has a bit of stick because halfway through his bench boost wasn't looking too good, but he's definitely turned it around. Yeah, and that's pretty good. Just an early start. An interesting place to record the pod from.
Yeah, well, we'll see how this goes. But don't forget to like the video, guys. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, get our alerts, and also don't forget to rate us. You can leave us comments and rate us on where you get your podcast from on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Maybe Amazon Podcasts as well. We're on all these things. So don't forget to be nice, give us 5 stars, please. That'd be lovely. And then follow us on our socials, on Football Pod, on Football P, Twitter, Instagram. And I think I've done like 1 TikTok this year, but I'm glad I did it for all of those followers on TikTok. I'm gonna be better. I promise. I keep saying it. Do we touch base on this game week 29? Bench boost was pretty wild. I think that a lot of really, really big scores in this big double game week, as was expected. David Byrne still top of our podcast league with 136 points this game week, so one of the top scores in the league. So well done, Dave. You've extended your lead. You have extended your lead, haven't you? Of course you have. You're now 37 points clear of Barry Stokes, who, well done, Baz, 117. What did I say about Jeff Belcher? Here he is, up to third. Now 52 points off the top, 137 points. He's up to third in the league now. Very good week for Jeff, 137. Sandeep's still there, obviously, without his bench boost this week with 89. DC 107, Cully 103. Gavin Webb 128. So some really good scores this week. Should we talk about Manager of the Week, though?
Yeah, go on then.
Oh, thanks, Baz. You're going to let me have my moment. Here he is.
It's the first time you're ever going to talk about your team, to be fair. So go on.
I think it's definitely the first Manager of the Week I've had this season, I'm pretty sure. 146 points. Come on. Yes. Big week for me. Get in. Super happy.
And you're only a couple of points behind Scott as well now, aren't you?
Yeah, no. Let's not mention that to Scott. I'm on his tail. He had a good week, actually, to be fair. But bench boost went really well for me. So I got 146 points. Took a -4. Had to be done for because of Ward being out and Cash's injury. So I had to take them both out really to execute the bench boost. Bench boost paid off, 24 points. So that's what you'd kind of expect or hope to get from a bench boost, minimum 20 points. I took a -4, got 24 points, happy with that. So Raya with 8, Martinelli 5, Botman with 9. Really annoying no clean sheet last night with a 5-1 win over West Ham. Really, that goal was so annoying. And Zinchenko, especially as a Man United fan, that was a really annoying goal because I was cheering on Newcastle to keep a clean sheet. And as soon as they didn't, I was like, come on, West Ham, beat them. But never mind. And Zinchenko with 2 points. And then, relatively template team, I think I've got to say I've got at the moment. De Gea, Estupinian, Trippier and Chilwell. March, Matoma captain, which was slightly better than going Rashford captain, but Rashford as well I had. Saka with 1 point. Kane, Watkins, the big scorer of the week. Along with Callum Wilson and Tony. So we're 146 points. So very, very, very pleased with that. I'm I think I'm in the top 20k of the Second Chance League, and I'm finally up to 455k overall. So happy days. There's my being happy about my own team situation. Let's talk about the league. Because we're at a really interesting point now. We were at an interesting point before, and we are now at another interesting point on what chips people have got left to use. Because, especially with the Luke Shaw injury that's come in, and do you bring back Haaland or not now he's back in training? If you have a free hit left of both of those players, for example, blank in game week 32, are you using your free hit in game week 32 or not? Do you have a free hit left or not? How many players are going to blank? Because also then Brighton have got 3 more double game weeks after game week 32. So, and they're blanking game week 32. So they've got 34, probably 36 and 37, I think it is. So your transfers that you're going to make heavily weigh on looking forward. So just a quick recap of the top of the league. We've got David Byrne, who's used up all his chips, who's top of the league. You've got yourself, Baz. Free hit left. Looks like looking at your team nailed on for 32.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, pretty nailed on for that. I think Jeff's the same. I think you'll both be on the same trajectory there. I think Sandeep, again, probably be on the same. So all 3 of you guys just have your free hits left. DC's all out. Dan Clark used all his chips. Cully went the opposite way and it didn't pay off. He went for his free hit this week instead of his bench boost, and now he's going to use his bench boost later down the line, but he obviously only has his bench boost left. So that's the top 6. Gavin Webb has his free hit left. One of the interesting ones is the only person in the top 10, the only person in the top 8, because 8th, 9th, and 10th all have their wild card left. Jack Alcroft still has his wild card left. So there's some interesting tactics still to go. But how are you feeling about your team moving forward? How are you feeling about? Have you got Shaw, by the way?
Yeah, I already did my transfer as well because I thought Havertz would drop in price. Got rid of him.
For Haaland?
Yeah. So I seen he was back in training Haaland, and I thought he's a beast, and against Southampton. Even if he comes on, he'll probably score 2 or 3. So
yeah.
So it was one of them. I thought, well, I'll do it early because I thought Havertz will go down in price, and I haven't got a lot of surplus cash to play with. So I thought I need to get him in before he goes down. So.
What's one of the questions that I had come in this week is what do we do? Obviously, Haaland is one of the other questions. We'll get to that in a minute. But what do we do with Luke Shaw? So let's get on to that. Hamstring injury, Baz, you said?
Yeah, hamstring injury. If it's like Bueno's, it might be about 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, you can't do a podcast without mentioning Bueno, can you? poor Kinder. He was just in the team as well. Yes, no, they're 4 to 6 weeks. So again, this is why I've touched on the fixtures first of all, and the blanks and the doubles, because who do you actually bring in to replace Luke Shaw at this very moment in time? Like realistically, if you aren't free hitting in game week 32, because in my opinion, obviously we pretty much all have 3 Arsenal players anyway. So an Arsenal defender, maybe, but maybe not. But probably a City defender, or maybe a like for like Man United to maybe someone like Dalot seems to make sense. But who do you go for if you're going for a team that don't blank in game week 32? Callum, if you are there, any teams that have really stood out for you in terms of defensive? Yeah, that you're looking at? Can you hear me? You got me?
Yeah, I've got the Arsenal space free, so I was actually
Yeah.
The match of the weekend.
That's it. That's our signal's gone, Callum. Sorry, I can't make out what he's saying there. Yeah, Baz, in terms of defenders, it was a nice try, wasn't it, on the train? It was a nice thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of defenders, in terms of teams.
Teams looking at it going forward. I think Fulham's got a good run of fixtures going forward, and defensively they're usually okay. So for me, I'd probably go for Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he hit crossbar at weekend, and he gives you attacking threats. So that's if they'll go in that way. Palace have got a good run of fixtures. New manager with Hodgson. So that could give you a good bounce on that way. So you could look for a Klein or a Mitchell or even a Anderson. So Leeds defensively, I'd probably stay clear of that. They've got a good few fixtures as well. So, but yeah, if I had to pick one, I'd pick Robinson.
Yeah, I think it'd be between sort of him and Ream for me at Fulham, and then the only other team that stood out to me was Villa. And I say that because in terms of goals conceded, they've conceded 18 since the World Cup, but in the last handful of games, the last 4 games, they've only conceded 2. I know their expected goals conceded is quite high, but the defence seems to have had quite a decent return. So it's the only other team I'd mention on top. And in terms of players, I did have this up and then it's closed for me. So 1 second. But basically, the point I was going to make was that Alex Moreno seems to be the guy defensively who's going to be. Yeah, it doesn't mind me. Alex Moreno seems to be the player who's got the best stats, expected stats at the back, and seems to be playing a lot of the games. I think people have been worried as well about his rotation. But again, alongside that, it's very uninspiring, though, isn't it?
Yeah, there's not really a lot of options because it's one of them where you're thinking, right, well, if I'm going to free it, you'd probably go for a Dallo or you'll go for an Ake maybe. There you're probably two that I would probably look at because obviously I'm free hitting anyway. But if you're not free hitting and you've already used your chip, then it is very difficult. But yeah, I think Aston Villa is a good shout on that front. But I've already got Moreno anyway, so yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it will. I think for you for hitting, it's an easier one because you can just go to a City or a Man United defender. Probably straight to Dallo seems to make sense if I was yourself.
But if you look at the fixtures after this game week, so if you keep Shaw and just put him on benches injured, Liverpool's fixtures going forward are good, but do you put Liverpool's defence in there?
Well, they have been good defensively though. This is so. Liverpool are a team that we're going to talk probably a lot about next week because exactly what you've just said. If we go from a fixture difficulty, sorry, I'm clicking about a lot here for YouTube watchers. Apologies, I'm doing lots of this. Liverpool have the best run of fixtures for the rest of the season after next week. So they've got Leeds, Forest, West Ham, double game week, both at home, Tottenham, Fulham, Brentford, Leicester, Aston Villa, and then Southampton. I mean, what a great run of fixtures. And actually, in terms of defence, they've been one of the top defensive teams in terms of goals conceded. So if I click on that, they've conceded, well, they've conceded 16 since the World Cup, but it was the last. This is great YouTube watching. Yeah, 5 goals in the last 4, but four of them were against City. Yeah, 4 of them against City. So they've actually conceded like 1 goal in the 3 games before. In fact, I think the clean sheet run was even longer than that. They'd only conceded 1 goal in like another 4 or 5 games. So actually, it might be a really good move from what you're suggesting there, Baz. Is you've got Shaw this week. Maybe don't panic. Don't be taking like massive hits if you think you can then move for no hit next week to maybe a Liverpool defender.
Because most people have obviously Trippier, an Arsenal defender, maybe a Chilwell or a James, maybe. There's 3 defenders there that would start, and then you might have another cheap option or something like that. That's quite good. For example, like Scott's got Porro. So it's one of them where you can hang fire and get Haaland back in and wait for the fixtures to ease off a bit for example, like Liverpool, or even keep him for another fixture after the 32. Because if you've got 4 defenders that are starting, me personally, I don't very rarely play 4 at the back when I'm doing it, because unless I'm thinking, oh yeah, these are quite good fixtures. So I'm quite happy to play 3 at the back.
Mm-hmm.
So then you've got obviously a potential one where it can come on. So that's my way of thinking about it.
And I would say I think that makes sense because we've also Rachel Riley, classic. So when we're looking at these fixtures moving forward again, if you can hold on, if for example a team, if you aren't free hitting game week 32, if for example you are like David Bird, if you can hold on for a week, then maybe look at Liverpool defender. That makes sense. There's a lot of chat about the Liverpool attackers for that fixture run, who to get, who to sit on, and we need to talk about form versus fixture here, because really, who from the Liverpool team, we won't cover this in much depth, but who from the Liverpool team actually stands out to you as a player that you would really quite desperately want to own right now? Exactly.
The silence is bliss. Salah's, you want Salah, but it's too much money. You've got Kane who's performing. You've got Haaland, that's obviously Haaland.
Mm-hmm.
And And it's like, well, let's go all big on attack, whereas last year it was defense and midfield. So, yeah, I wouldn't go crazy and get a thing. If I'm free hitting on 32 and they got what is it? Liverpool's got Forest, I think.
Forest. Yeah.
Yeah, then I'm going all gunno on your Liverpool, but then it's who to pick because the rotation risk. Obviously, Salah was obviously benched, but came on, didn't really do anything against Chelsea. I think no one really did anything in that game, to be honest.
They don't do anything against each other, Baz. They've played 8 hours of football and not a goal. I think did you read the commentators, by the way? They even made a joke. They went, "We don't even get a penalty shootout tonight." That was that's actually what they said on the coverage, which I thought was brilliant. It was like this: they've given us a right game to do today. It's just the way it is. Callum, if you are there, I know you have your opinions on Mo and Liverpool. What are your thoughts on everyone trying to jump on the bandwagon of Liverpool assets with these fixtures? And would you be looking at any from probably next week?
Same as what Baz said, really. Like, you're seeing the fixtures are really good, but there's no one that's really you're going to go for, especially, like Baz said, all your strikers are all taken by informed players that are actually doing really well. So, who are you actually going to risk taking out just to try and get something out of a Liverpool side that just aren't firing?
Yeah.
And yeah, the other thing, you've seen Jack Grealish get back. It's just almost like you can see that age difference maybe is actually starting to come into play now. And it's just extra yard quicker and just more mentally switched on, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, I just can't think who you'd gamble on.
I think the interesting thing about Salah is, and I've just got the full season stats up in front of me here. You know, he's the 4th highest scoring midfielder in the game this year still, and everyone thinks he's been rubbish. And I know the problem is that he's 12.8 million and he started the season at 13. So he's just not value for money at all compared to some of the other midfielders who are around. For an example, Saka started the season at 8 mil, Rashford started the season at 6.5, Martinelli I think was 6 million, I think Ødegaard was 6.5. They're the other midfielders around him. It's the same with Kevin De Bruyne, because Kevin De Bruyne is the 6th highest scoring midfielder of the season. But again, you're just not going to go there, are you, because of his price? So, free hit for Salah, yeah, definitely. He's going to be in my free hit team in game week 32. I almost certainly. Might even be my captain, maybe, depending on other players that are in there. So actually some quite good fixtures. It's probably going to be Saka against Southampton. But still, there's some quite good other players in there. But yeah, the Liverpool hype is. I think I think in terms of the Shaw stuff, to cover that question that came in, because it is a question a lot of people have. If you either way, if you have a free hit or you don't, you can still hold him this week and then reassess next week and look at someone from Liverpool potentially or other teams. If you have got a free hit, then I do like the sideways move to Dalot, because like Man United, Ten Hag prefers Dalot, and Man United have Everton at home, Forest away. You're free hitting. Spurs double game week, West Ham, Wolves double game week, including Bournemouth and Fulham at home. So they've got really good fixtures for the rest of the season. So don't be afraid of having Man United players. So though we're on bad form, we have done okay. Let's talk about City. Their fixtures again look really good moving forward. They have 2 double game weeks left for the rest of the season. They play Southampton and Leicester next. You've already brought Haaland back in, Baz.
Yep.
Callum, again, if the signal's okay. Haaland, you haven't got him. Are you bringing him back in this week?
Probably, to be honest, just with the injury in the knock and he's in training, you think he's going to come back. There's no point waiting for press conferences because Pep does Pep things. But it's really boring, and I want to get rid of Havertz. My differential did not pay off. Yeah, it's probably the easy choice.
It's. I think you've been. Yeah, again, I think a lot of people took a few punts on these players just to see if they were going to do anything, and I don't think they were bad moves at all. It's people I looked at Cully's free hit team. You know, Watkins sat on his bench as first sub instead of Danny Ings played for 2 points, and I was like, oh, that hurts to even look at. To be honest, that was so painful. But yeah, I think that people had a lot of experiments and they didn't really pay off. City, let's talk about their midfielders as well, because I think Haaland coming back for these next 2 games for me, I think I'm bringing him back in for Tony this week. Yeah, there's no doubt for me. When I look at Haaland, Kane, Rashford, Saka, probably someone, maybe Trippier. Those are the players for me that you just almost can't go without at the moment. And I won't talk to you about Mitoma or a Brighton asset in midfield, Bas. It's just not quite paid off. They've just looked so good. But midfielders, I'm going to bring some stats up on here. But whilst we do this, who would you look at for midfield out of probably Mahrez, Grealish, De Bruyne, Barry? Who are you thinking of out of these guys?
Grealish or Mahrez. I think De Bruyne is a bit too heavily priced on that front. So if you can do an easy swap between them. Whereas you might have to do 2 or 3 transfers to get a De Bruyne in. So unless you've obviously got a high value midfielder already, but I highly doubt that someone's got like a Salah or someone like that at this moment of time. So Grealish played unbelievable against Liverpool. His work rate off the ball, and he just torn Trent Alexander-Arnold a new one. To be fair, I think he was in knots. I think his laces were tied together or something. I don't know, but Grealish just looked brilliant. And Mahrez is Mahrez. He can do something like clicker his fingers and it's done. Whereas if I had to pick one of them, I'd pick Grealish.
Callum, your thoughts?
Yeah, the same as well. Go for Grealish. Yeah, he looked really confident in the game. Looked like he was having fun, and then he repeated that at the end of the match. Then that's exactly how he's feeling at the moment.
Yeah.
I may be wrong, but I feel Mahrez is more of a Champions League kind of player for Pep.
Yeah, I'm
now
glad
that's coming back into it.
I'm glad you said that, Callum, right? Because Mahrez didn't play in the last Champions League game. He didn't start in it. Oh no, he did. Was it last one or the one before he didn't start in it? Basically, in the last 2, he only started one of the last 2. His Grealish has started both of them. That's the only knockout game they've played so far. So it's interesting because there is that perception that Mahrez is the player that plays in Champions League and Grealish will play League and a bit of Champions League. But Grealish has played in 8 Champions League matches this season, and I think they've only played 8 Champions League matches this season. So I think he's featured in all of them. So there is that perception of Mahrez, but league stats are in front of us here for YouTube watchers. And since the World Cup, Manchester City have played 14 matches. Grealish has started 12 and come on in 2. I think that's what that is. Yeah, starts in 12, come on in 2. And then Mahrez has started 9, come on in 2. So he's only played in 11 out of 14 matches. The players that have played in all of them are Ederson and Rodri, and then Haaland, who has played in all bar the last one that he missed. So it shows if Haaland's fit, he picks him. Obviously Ederson, and then he picks Rodri, which the Yorkshire Perlo's not happy about. Sat on the bench, Calvin Phillips, is he still? Not even getting a sniff at the moment. So there you go. But Grealish is the person who's getting these.
Yeah, the other thing, I think Grealish actually, when Haaland's back, they link up quite well together as well. So maybe he gets less goals, but his assists start to go up.
The only other
quite nicely.
I agree with that. The only other thing I would say is that they've got 6 assists each. Grealish has got 3 goals. Mahrez has got 4. So they're very close in terms of statistics of what they've produced. Just bearing in mind in terms of minutes, Mahrez has produced the same number of points as Grealish, but in 75% of the minutes that Grealish has. So Mahrez is exactly what Baz said, more explosive, but more likely to be rotated probably for maybe Bernardo Silva or anyone else on that side, or to be sacrificed in a system rather than Grealish, it seems, at the moment, who's played most of the minutes. With Foden being out with his appendix, though, I can't lie, I'm really on the fence. I really want to bring a City midfielder in this week. I'd love to. I think it'd be a really good attacking way of trying to attack the fixtures. Maybe, sack off Solly March at this point, something like that, get rid of one of the Brighton players. Then I'll have just 2 Brighton assets, and then I'll go back to 3 when all their doubles come back in. I'm really torn on it. I genuinely think it's quite, it's pretty 50-50. But yeah, I understand all the reasons for Grealish. I think he's going to probably be more reliable to start. So we're all on the Grealish wagon, aren't we? Let's be honest. You having a good look at the stats, Baz?
I am, yeah. I was just Gundogan.
Yeah, just 7 point, same price as Mahrez though.
That's the only downside to it.
Yeah. So he
He's
used to
got
be like,
he's
yeah,
got a 6 and a 7.
It used to be
And
5.5, 6 million, and then at that point he was like a proper price. Remember that season he had, but he was amazing for like, and he was a proper he could have been an asset, but when he's 0.4 more expensive than Grealish, it's just like you just can't go there, can you? Because I looked at him as well when I was doing the analysis for the pod. It's just but for anyone in draft who doesn't have him yet, I'm looking at him in draft. So, you might as well get there before me. I think I'm third, so everyone will just get all these players. You'll probably still get him, Bazzy. Bottom of the league, you're not even playing.
no, I think I've gave up. I'm going to probably sign Connor Salmon or something like
that. There's Baz's shout of the week. I love that, Connor Salmon. So we have to talk about managers because there's been a right little manager merry-go-round, hasn't there? So it's just a bit ridiculous, isn't it? How many people are getting sacked at the moment? So shall I zoom in for you, Baz?
Yeah,
that's better for you.
Better for people watching as well.
True, especially on their phones. So the person who's been the longest serving manager in the Premier League, Jurgen Klopp. Then it's Pep Guardiola. Then Thomas Frank's been at Brentford for 4.5 years. Then it's Arteta, the 4th longest serving manager in the Premier League. David Moyes.
He'd be gone.
Yeah, nice. He's on the edge and he's on the brink. I think they'd have sacked him by now if they were going to. But then I said that about Brendan and I was wrong. So I can't believe they sacked Brendan. You talk about cash in the bank. Like, other than Ranieri winning the league with them, he's been such a good manager for Leicester. Then it's your Silver, Steve Cooper. Mad. Eddie Howe. And then Eric Ten Hag is the 9th longest serving manager in the Premier League, and it's his first season at Man United. What did you make of? We'll touch on Chelsea in a minute because I know that it's quite an interesting story. But what did you make of the sacking of Brendan Rodgers? Barry?
Shocked, but obviously my mate who was a Leicester fan, he was like it's a bit like Southgate. They go 1-0 up and it's a bit defensive. They go too defensive, and it's like you're just inviting pressure on, especially with the defence as well, as ropey as it is. You've got Harry Suter that can't head a ball straight because he would have had about 15 assists for Maddison, who's trolling everyone at the moment. Fires, it looks good on the ball, but he's not consistent enough. And then you've probably got your fullbacks probably pushing too high. And then obviously they used to have that security blanket of Ndidi, but he's not himself, is he? I don't even know if he's still at the club. You don't hardly hear him. I don't know what's happening there. But yeah, it's a bit of a turmoil at Leicester, and I think they needed a change, to be honest. But they should have done it early if they were going to get rid of him, like you said. And they don't know who the attackers are. It's too rotational, and the players that they've got aren't really good enough, to be honest. They go into very hit and miss. Like Barnes, he's like on flames, and then next thing you know, you don't hear him for like 8 or 10 matches. So they just need a bit more consistency in their play to make them a bit better and get up the table. But yeah, it's not looking promising for them.
Callum, you there? Your thoughts on Brendan?
Yep, I'm here.
And the sacking?
Just the twitchy nature of the league. I think it just compounds the problems that are already there. I don't think they can get a quick fix and sort themselves out because the money's too important for them to sitting on anyone when it's all so tight.
Feels like apparently it was like almost like mutual consent. I think that was one of the things they said. Like they come to a mutual agreement that it was the right thing to do for him to move on. I just think that's just a way of really giving him respect, which I did kind of like actually the touch from the club because he blatantly got sacked. But I think they just gave him a bit of respect in the sense that he'd obviously achieved a lot with Leicester. You know, they're back-to-back fifth place finishes before that. I mean, like, just he's done unbelievable, really. To be fair, and I backed him to keep them out of that relegation zone. Do you think like someone like Graham Potter's really going to want to go there now?
He's rejected it, apparently.
Has he turned it down? Right. Well, this is it. But did he really? I didn't think he'd want to go take the job.
I think what the issue with Leicester is they were set up for counter-attack for Vardy to run onto. Vardy ain't got the legs no more to do that. And I think that's where the issue is. They set up to do that. They brought Daka in to do that. But Daka's not that type of player that's doing it for him, if that makes sense. So, yeah, it's one of them, I think. They need to do something. And I think, yeah, he's just that.
I listened to David Moyes' podcast he did with the Diary of a CEO, and he was talking, which was quite interesting, really, because he was just talking about this season. And he said, so I've got the backing of the board, I think. You know, we've brought in some players like Paqueta, and we're trying to change the system, like Agard and these lot, like to really sort of move the Skamaka even as well. But let's not talk about him, Baz. But these sort of players to try and move the team onto the next level. And they said there's always a transitional period when these players are on. There's always an issue, like a period of time when these new players need to start settling in. And I feel like Leicester have also done the same. You know, they changed their centre-back pairing this year. They're playing different wing-backs instead of Pereira. Obviously, Justin's been injured, which has been a real shame for them. They lost Kasper Schmeichel, which was a big deal. They've never replaced him. I think that's been one of the problems. Poor Danny Ward and Everson. But I think they needed another goalkeeper, and that was a key position to buy in January, and they didn't. And then they're going through that process of replacing Vardy with Daka, and for some reason they don't back Iheanacho. So I think they're just going through a transitional period, and they kind of just needed to stick with him because I think they'd have got out of it. But anyway, there you go. I'm the guy that really wants everyone to stick with their managers. I think it's always a disgrace when someone gets sacked. I don't, to be fair. I think Potter being let go. Let's talk about Chelsea. I don't know what Bowley's doing. It's just quite simple. He's obviously hired a manager there and thinks they're going to do a long-term process and a project. And then he's realised that he's bought a club which don't tolerate that. They want immediate success all the time and to change a manager every 2 years, because that's what Chelsea have done for the last 20 years. Potter's just I think he's a really good manager, but he's just a wrong fit for Chelsea. I don't know what you think, Baz.
Yeah, I think he's one of them. He needs time to build his team like he did at Brighton and get into pre-season, do the tactics how he wants them to play. And obviously spending all that money and getting them to blend and all the different nationalities they've got. And yeah, it was set up to fail when all them players come in and they didn't solve the problem that they've got up front. They're missing a Lukaku, for example. I know he's not obviously setting the world alight at the moment, but they're missing a number 9. Obviously, Man U kind of semi-done it with Weghorst, but yeah, we're not touched upon that. But they needed a centre forward. They've got all these 2 flair players that can't put the ball in the back of the net. They're creating all these chances, but no one can put it in back of net. So why didn't they just buy a centre forward? There's probably a few out there that they could have done and spent. Was it 90 million they spent on Mudryk? Could have spent 90 million on a centre forward.
Oh, well, Mudryk's not even playing all every week, you know.
Exactly.
I know they signed Enzo Fernandez, who seems like he's going to be a good signing longer term. But yeah, in the midfield, when they spent 100 and something million on him, and so they've spent big money on players and not big money on a person who can put the ball in the net. Which, you know, how do you win games of football? And Graham Potter as well, just before I come to you on this one, Callum, is, you know, the first 2 seasons, I mentioned this on the podcast when we first started doing it, maybe 3 years ago, 3 years ago, when it was a big season for Potter, that season at Brighton, that 3rd season at Brighton, because the first 2 seasons at Brighton, Graham Potter had just achieved exactly the same points tallies as Chris Hughton and very similar to goal tallies as Hughton as well. So he'd actually only really done, but they were playing prettier football, which was all very lovely. But he'd only really done the same as Hughton in terms of actual results. So that 3rd season was a big season for him. But that's how and he did really well. And he was doing really well this season as well. It just shows how much of a good manager Potter is. but how much time he also needs to work with the players that he has to make them play the certain way. And there's no doubt that I think if he'd have stuck with Chelsea for 3 years, he might have been near the top. But you don't have that time. You don't have that time in the Premier League, in those big clubs. You can't be given it.
I think the Arteta proves it. He had time, and now look at him.
He was 1 game away from being sacked. I still hold that. Like if they'd have lost to Norwich in that 4th game of the last season, he'd have been gone. Especially, but they stuck with him because they won 1-0, and he just, and like Edu backed him, got rid of the other players. But it just Callum, I'm going to come to you in a second on this, I promise. But Carragher banged on about this on Monday Night Football, and he was going, "Oh, a manager changes the culture of a club. A manager changes the culture of a club." Like he was banging about this about Spurs. No, mate, you've never worked in an industry. You've never worked in a corporate world or a business world. Like you haven't. You've kicked a ball, and now you're talking about football, because the change always comes from the top. Everywhere, every company, everything, every place you ever work, they've got to then back the manager to then let him change the culture. So, but the actual key is always the CEO, the director, the number one person at any of these big companies, and they've got to then give potentially the influence, they've got to give the autonomy to the manager to be able to do it. So that's what Edu did with Arteta, in terms of backed him with Aubameyang. You know, look what Richard Arnold's doing with Eric Ten Hag now. You know, you want Anthony, I'll get you him. You want this, I'll get you, you can have him. They're allowing the manager to change the culture because the person above them is allowing that to happen. And that's, it grated on me that. It was a very naive statement from Carragher, I think. But there you go. It was interesting debate. Callum, sorry, do you want to come in on that, Baz, by the way, before I go to Callum on? No, fine. Callum Potter, Chelsea, Frank back. What do you think?
I think that more than a few clubs have doing it when there was barely anyone else that had tons of cash to throw at problems, and they're just rotating to get things league now.
Oh, sorry, okay, cut out, Cal. Sorry, mate.
You could have bought your way out of it before.
Oh,
yeah. I think, like I said, it is knee-jerk.
Yeah, so it does feel very knee-jerk to try to get them all in. But Frank going back to Chelsea, Baz?
He's a cool hero, isn't he? And I think it's going to help the fan situation to just calm the issue down. But what you got to think is Chelsea's position at the moment, they can't really go anywhere less than 11th. So technically, the only way is up really for him. Because I can't see him getting drawn down to 12th, 13th, because I can't see anyone else catching up, because there's 9 points difference between 11th and 12th.
Yeah, they're not going down, they've got 39 points already.
Yeah, so it's one of them. It's like the only way is up, and yeah, Lampard coming in. Why not? Temporary, innit? So on a day, it didn't work. Why not? Just give it a go.
Got a bit of a tinge of when Newcastle bought Shearer just for a legend, settle everyone down, and then start again next season.
Yeah, and they got relegated.
He's not a long-term manager. Yeah. But I mean, he's not a long-term manager for them, so it does feel the same sort of fan service.
Yeah, it's true. We gave it Carrick for a few games. We gave it Giggsy to the end of the season one time. You know, it's what we did at United twice when we decided to not back our managers over a period of time. I mean, again, I had one Chelsea fan talk about, we don't even want to get in Conference League. We don't even want to get in Europa League. Well, your players aren't going to play then, are you? You've got 26 first-team squad members. You need Europe so they can kick a ball. You won't have enough fixtures. They need Europe still, even if it's Conference League, I think. Otherwise, they're going to not be able to keep the players happy. I don't know if I even see them getting Conference League, though. With the teams that are above them, again, for pod listeners, Arsenal top on 72, with 8 points clear of Man City on 64. Then Newcastle and Man United both on 53. Spurs on 50. Newcastle, Man United have a game in hand on Spurs. Brighton on 46 with 2 games in hand on Spurs. They're 4 points behind them with 2 games in hand on Spurs. Then it's Villa on 44 and Liverpool on 43 and Brentford on 43. Chelsea and Fulham are then both on 39 points, 4 points further back. So, and it's top 7 to get Europe. Yeah, top 7.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
I think Chelsea will probably finish 9th.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I think Villa look really good to try and sneak into that Conference League, don't they?
Yeah, it's in the form, and they've got Emery in charge who knows how to do it. And Watkins as well is playing unbelievable. He's playing with manic confidence. It's basically Emery's just said, just work between the 18-yard box, don't get drawn out wide, just stay in the middle, work them defenders, and it's paying off.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've done our predictions before, Baz, but Callum, who do you think the top 7 is going to be, and in what order?
Oh.
You didn't prepare for that, did
you? No.
Go on, wing it. What do you think?
I think Brighton might overtake Tottenham at the moment, to be honest.
Okay.
But then Liverpool move up to 6th. But besides that, more or less the same order, but just I think Spurs are free-falling a little bit.
So,
but yeah, than that.
So Arsenal, Man City, Newcastle, Man United, Brighton, Liverpool, Spurs. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So, like that. Villa just missing out, and then Chelsea under Frank not being able to recover on that one.
No, that's the one thing I noted on my notes. Like, just Chelsea looked like they had no venom. There was just nothing, no clinical mentality at all. It was just really strange.
Completely agree. They don't look like they've got anything really about them at this very moment in time. Let's just have a quick look at the fixtures, and then we'll go to your 11. But one thing I did want to do just before I go to the fixtures, just have a quick look at where we're up to in terms of the schedule. There you go. Can you see that, Baz, now? Yep. Zoomed in. Just a quick look in terms of the schedule. So game week 30 is April the 8th. The Champions League quarterfinals are April 11th and then April the 18th. So they sandwich game week 31. This is one of the only reasons why some people have been talking about Haaland not starting in game week 30. And just to clarify on this point, I'm bringing Haaland back this week. I'm not going to captain him. Just to be clear, he's not my captain this week, just in case he does get benched. So, but game week 30, because I was wanting my team, I think he's just incredibly important. And then game week 31, he'll blank in game week 32, but that's the semi-finals. I don't know if I'd be surprised if he starts the semi-final, but they've got an easier game. And then the actual semi-finals of the FA Cup, semi-finals of the Champions League, they're not until May 9th. There's actually quite a big gap between the quarterfinal second leg and the semi-final first leg. City will actually have 4 Premier League fixtures within that gap. So if you don't have a free hit, then you could take that gamble to go without Haaland. Now look at David Byrne's team for an example. And I say this because he's top of the league. He's got no chips left. And I think he's got Shaw, Mitoma and Rashford and Steele and Kepa. I think he's got 5 players that blank in terms of no goalkeeper. I will just double check that, because if I'm going to start talking about his team, I probably should actually get his team right, shouldn't I? Let's be honest. But then are you really going to take that gamble to then bring another player in that blanks in game week 32 that might not even play in game week 30? I know it's controversial, Baz, because you're chasing him, but what would you do in his shoes? I'm interested.
I don't know. I think I'd have pre-planned something, to be honest. So he's probably got something pre-planned, but I've never thought about it because I was always going to free it in 32. It's tough. I don't know where to go on that. I think maybe might even do some minors transfers. I'm hopefully wishfully thinking.
Well, he's got Kane, Tony, and Watkins up top at the moment. So they have got Brighton, Newcastle, and Forest all home fixtures this week. I'm really interested to see what happens there because, Shaw obviously will have to come out for him. He'll have to make a goalkeeper transfer. So we've got game week 30, 31 and 32. He's only got 3 free transfers and there's 2 of them. So he's only got 1 other free transfer to use.
Come on, Tony,
taking
get banned. Come on, Tony, get banned.
I really hope it is too because I'm taking him out this week. So yeah, it's that, but that's the thing is that he's got it's tough. You've got 2 transfers that have to be locked in now. And then you have, which might be a Liverpool player, and then whichever goalkeeper you want to go for the rest of the season to work with these guys. Maybe even Alisson. Might even look at Alisson the week after. Good work. I think he's a top scoring keeper in the pods in the Fantasy Premier League this season. What are we talking about? What are we even here for? Callum, what would you do if you didn't have a free? You got a free hit left, haven't you? You've got your free hit.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Yep. I'm not sure because I think. Can you pull up the fixtures again? Oh, yeah, you got there for 32.
Yeah. For game week 32. Yeah, game week 32 is here.
Because sometimes I've noticed when you usually seem to be lower scoring game weeks anyway. So maybe it's not actually that bad not having one, or maybe not starting a few players.
So maybe bringing Haaland back, but not being worried about him starting 10 players. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, because it's reduced of playing each other, so they cancel each other out. There's even less to pick from. So it's not the end of the world. It's compared to a free hit that's targeting a double game week, for example.
I did hear one thing on this though, which I thought was really interesting. I don't know how you'd manufacture it. Really like that easily. You'd probably have to have at this very moment in time like one Brighton, like you probably right now in your team have to have like Matoma, Rashford, and then maybe one other player that blanks in game week 32 to do this, maybe like Chilwell. But one person was talking about on the podcast, and this might be something that Cully might even look at, I don't know, in terms of his team and how many players that he's got that blank in game week 32 at this very moment in time. But trying to use your bench boost in game week 32, if you've got it left. And the reason being for that is because of exactly what Callum just said. So Callum just mentioned it tends to be like lower scoring weeks. So people tend to play like 10 players. So your upside from using your bench boost. So for example, Cully's got Chilwell, he's got Haaland, Rashford and Matoma. Yeah. So if he wanted to go like proper left field with it, he could then take those guys out to get players in that play in this game week. For example, Liverpool players who've got great fixtures, and use his bench boost that week because he'll be playing 15 players and a lot of people only playing 10. His upside's there. Anyway, just an outside shout. But yes, I understand what you're saying, Callum, in terms of the fixtures.
I still think I probably will use my free hit then. But yeah, I've been thinking about it. I want to wait and see what's actually going on these next few matches, and then decide if I think people are in form enough to make it worthwhile, or be some of the doubles later on, and just really go after
it. I agree, and it ends up being something where you have to just look at your own team, don't you, and see how many players you've got that blank in 32. So, for example, I'm basically pot committed. I've got 6 players that blank in 32, and I want to bring Haaland in this week to make it 7. So I'm committed to that strategy. That's I have to do it. But yeah, for other people leaving it open, it makes sense. Let's do the fixtures, and then we'll go to your 11, Baz. So the early kickoff deadline is 11 o'clock on Saturday, the 8th of April. Man United Everton's the early kickoff. 1-0 Man United, please. Boring game. Lovely. That'd be nice. Rashford, top bins. 50 minutes in, get him subbed off, then he can relax. Villa at home to Forest. Very good fixture for Villa this week. Can't be denied. Again, if you are looking at someone like a Buendia as a midfielder, all these sorts of players, that they're not too bad, but now having maybe a Moreno coming in this week for this fixture for sure won't be a bad thing, I don't think. Forest are away from home, we know what they're like. They've only scored, I think, 5 goals on the road all season. Brentford at home to Newcastle is a really interesting game because Brentford's home record is obviously very good. Well, very good, it's good. And Newcastle are on form at the moment. Now, Bruno Guimaraes is back. Just they're just a different team with Bruno. And Isak, again, scoring off the bench last night. Both the strikers now seem to be back in form. They look really good, don't they, Baz?
Yeah, St. Maximin as well.
Yeah, looks so good. That'd be a really interesting game. Fulham West Ham, again, another interesting game between these two. Andreas Pereira has to be someone that we're going to of note. You know, when you talked about Fulham moving forward in terms of fixtures, they've got Bournemouth, West Ham, Everton, Leeds, Villa, a horrible double game week with City and Liverpool in game week 34, but it's still a double. Leicester, Southampton, Crystal Palace, and then Man United away game week 38. So other than their double game week, which looks a bit awful, but it's still a double, and game week 38, Fulham's fixtures look very good for the rest of the season. So a lot of people will be have bench boosted this week and have a lot of money tied up in a lot of different, like in each individual player. Whereas if you wanted to take some money out of a player in midfield and then be able to upgrade the rest of your team and have someone sit on your bench. I mean, Andreas Pereira is at 4.3 million now. He seems, again, a really good option. He's on pens when Mitro doesn't play, etc., etc. If you're going to look to try and free up some funds, he seems like a pretty obvious player to look at. Leicester at home to Bournemouth. Interesting first game in charge for whoever's in charge of Leicester now. Don't know. Spurs at home to Brighton. Competitive game. Again, Conte Jr., whatever you're going to call Stellini. That'll be an interesting game. I'd be interested to see how Brighton will just go for it under De Zerbi, won't they? Even at
they always do.
Yeah,
attack, and attack.
You know what's going to happen? Brighton are going to win 3-1 and Kane's going to score. It's just how it's going to go, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Homer and someone else will score.
Yeah, they will. And Brighton's clean sheet will be wiped out because you'll have Steele. So Wolves, Chelsea, and then Southampton play Man City. Again, they're under the lights. Southampton have got a horrible home record. City. Love to bring in a City midfielder this week. I've got too many players I want to bring in this week. Too many. I don't want to take loads of minuses there. Leeds, Palace, and then Liverpool, Arsenal. Super Sunday. Your team, Barry, that you've let us know about. There we go. Talk us through it for pod listeners.
So, as obviously you looked at the stats, you had Aston Villa very good defensively. So I've gone for Martinez in goal. He looks good in goal. He's obviously Golden Glove and all that. So I thought, got to get him in against Forest at home. We've only scored 2 now since 2 goals or something away. Seen a weird stat on that. I thought, yeah, got to get him in for that potential clean sheet on that. Chilwell, obviously bonus points as well. He gives you attacking options and potential clean sheet at Wolves. It's a bit of a tricky one on that one. Got from Moreno as well. Is in my actual team, and same again. He hit the post against Leicester. He looks very good going forward, and same again for clean sheets. And then Dalot we touched upon just for example, like a straight swap for Shaw. Same again. He looks good going forward, and Man United are looking very good defensively as well. Midfield, I did have Pereira in, to be honest, but I took him out and put Grealish in because I couldn't not have him in.
Yeah,
because how well he played against Liverpool. Harrison as well. He's in form. He's looking good against Palace at home at Ellen Road. Yeah, they've got Hodgson, but I think it's going to be either a score draw or a Leeds win in my eyes on that one. Rashford's Rashford. And Barnes over Maddison because Barnes just looks better. And as I mentioned about Maddison at the moment, he's trolling everyone. That's not down to his own accord. I think it's down to the players he's playing with. If you don't pass it to Barnes, then no one else is going to score, I don't think. And then Kane, Haaland, I think obviously the most prolific strikers with Watkins at the moment, who's the most informed probably in the world right now, to be honest. And that is my team.
I think it's an absolutely cracking team. That's going to be my front 3 this week. And I'd love to get Grealish in. Rashford be captain. Yeah. Chilwell again. I should have gone for Martinez as my goalkeeper instead of De Gea. I know De Gea got a clean sheet still, but I know why I did it. And then your bench, obviously, this is just coming at just about 98 mil, 99.8. Something.
I didn't do my bench, just to me 11, to be honest, mate.
Okay.
Yeah, but I just thought that's kind of set in stone with that one, really. I probably would have obviously Pereira on the bench as my other midfielder.
Yeah. A couple of cheap defenders and probably Steele. I'd have thought some cheap goalkeeper that's just not going to play anyway, but cheap one. Yeah, makes sense. I love it. Callum, your thoughts on the 11? I've no critiques for this at all. Actually, I think it looks cracking.
Yeah, no, I enjoy it. Nice bit of spice in there with some of your mainstays that everyone's gonna have. Yeah, I like it as well.
Yeah,
we'll do all right.
Rashford in that front three, everyone's going to have, and then Chilwell probably a lot, and then but yeah, I like it a lot. I think it looks very good. Captaincy then for this game week. So you've obviously gone Rashford against Everton at home, which makes sense. Is a good player. Your thoughts, Callum, on captains this week?
I'm currently thinking Watkins just because he's so informed, but because he's scoring so much, I'm thinking he's going to stop at some point. That's my worry.
That's such a negative way of thinking about it.
At the moment. I know, but he can't keep going and going and going. Someone has to stop.
I said that about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he's still going now. So
yeah, it's on him at the moment for me.
There's some great captaincy options this week, aren't there? Rashford, Watkins, Haaland potentially. Those for me are the main three. You wanted to go differential again, have people just been trolled by Maddison? But maybe a Barnes. But I think it's between Rashford, Watkins, and Haaland for most, isn't it?
Do you know what I'd like for a random shout? I'm never going to do it, but Pereira as captain.
Brilliant.
Ricardo Pereira.
No. Let's don't keep clean sheets. You said, and he doesn't start anyway. He just scored.
He just scored, didn't he?
He scored in my 11 last week. But Andres Pereira.
West Ham. You never know what they're going to do you, with West Ham? They are an interesting bunch. Just final touch, obviously, before we do let's do our differentials, should we, Baz? Let's do that before then. I do the final little thing I'm going to do before we sign off. Your differential of the week?
With me?
Yeah.
I've changed it.
Have you? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've changed it.
Oh, I like it.
And do you know what I'm going for?
Go on.
I'm doing a hat trick of the player that's been picked by you twice. I'm going for Harvey Barnes.
You've taken my Barnes off me.
Yeah.
Which block? I don't know. He has his you've blocked me there. Callum, your differential of the week?
I thought I could go with the obvious Man City Grealish one, but actually, my proper differential, I'm going for Eze. He looked spicy, looked strong, looked like he wanted it. He's just been brought back into the team, so he'll want to prove himself. Yeah, I'm going with Eze.
And plus, Zara might be injured as well, so we're growing. So
yeah,
is that right? Classic he went off, Zaha. Didn't he? He's just waiting for his contract to end, isn't he? Zaha. He really is, isn't he? And my differential, as I mentioned to you before the podcast, was Buendia, which I like. Do you know as well? It was close between him and Moreno, because I felt like Moreno might do something fun this week. But no, I'm going to go Buendia. Buendia it is. Oh, hello. There we go. We've got our podcast guest. Hello, Gracie D. Going to do a wave. That's lovely. Oh, that's nice. Just going to touch on form before we finish off. Is she laughing at your Ricardo Pereira pick?
Yeah, I think she was. She told me to pick him.
Did she? Well, he scored, so you should probably listen to her. To be fair, yes. So let's look quick look at form finally, because before we wrap up. So the most. Oh, are you getting off the train, Callum? Soon. Sounds like you're getting cold.
I am live from Newcastle, and it's kicking up.
Harry Kane's most informed player in the league. Trossard's up there as well. He's not scored any goals, I don't think, in his last period of time. He's got 6 assists. Obviously Watkins and Harrison's up there. Grealish, Xhaka and Xhaka. De Bruyne, Isak's right up there as well. Martinelli, Matoma, Gundogan again. no real surprises up there, Baz. Anybody that stands out for you as somebody that you might consider we haven't discussed? I don't think there is there really? I think we've actually covered this throughout the podcast.
Yeah, I think near enough. I think it all explains itself, really, to be honest. I think Jesus might be interesting going forward, but we'll obviously pick him in now.
Yeah, and like you said about Leeds and Harrison, Palace at home, Liverpool at home, Fulham away, and then Leicester at home. So, but thanks so much for tuning in this week, lads, and being part of this. Callum, thanks for joining us from the train. It's been fun experiment. And Barry, thank you for joining us once again. Yeah, and don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channels, and subscribe to where you get your podcasts from. Spotify, etc., Amazon Podcast, and then follow us on our social media platforms for Pod, or for P on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Callum, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, we're flying down the East Coast.
And Barry, thanks for joining us as well, and your cameo appearance from Gracie D.
Thank you.
And that's signing off from me. This week's Manager of the Week, Guru's back. Bye for now.